This is a reading of the article The Sweating System by James Connolly, originally published in the Workers' Republic on the 3rd of June 1899. It was republished in James Connolly, Lost Writings, which was edited by Andrus O'Cosig, and the HTML markup was done by Endo Callahan for the Marxist Internet Archive, where I'm currently reading it, and where you can read it and many other articles by many other Marxists. It's a great website. This article outlines a particular labor struggle that was going on at the time in Dublin that was faced by the tailoring sector, and it outlines James Connolly's attitude towards this struggle, which we can imagine was also held by some members of the Irish Republican Socialist Party. And by that I mean some other members excluding James Connolly, who was a member of the party at the time. And that's enough of my introduction. On with the text. We are unfeignedly glad to see the members of the tailoring trade in Dublin bestirring themselves to put an end to the sweating system in connection with that industry. Unfortunately, in a great many of our most important trades, any discontent which exists is too often attributed to merely imaginary causes, and the money and energy of the workers frittered away in a foolish attempt to win the cooperation of the employers in an attempt to better the condition of labor. In this move of the tailoring craft, however, there are to be found the tokens of a recognition on the part of the men that, from whatever quarter assistance may voluntarily come, from the side of the masters nothing can be hoped for, except by pressure of the union on one hand or the threat of withdrawal of custom on the other. This fact helps to clear the air and will, no doubt, be highly beneficial to the men insofar as it will serve to solidify their ranks and compel them to realize that it is only by the financial and moral strength of their organization they can hope to achieve success, and not at all by any reliance upon the goodwill of employers. For the benefit of the general public, we may here set down some of the principal factors in the dispute alluded to. The central grievance upon which attention is directed, if not the only one at present, lies in the employment of what are known as outworkers. Such outworkers are men or women for whom the employer provides no workshop or other facilities, but who execute at home whatever work they receive. This system has a double disadvantage for those workers who work only in the shop, or as it is technically termed, on the board. In the first place, it makes impossible any effective supervision of the conditions under which the work is performed, and thus opens the way for all manner of inroads on the log or price list, and provides the employing class with a reserve of unorganized labor continually competing with the organized workers and continually offering facilities to the employer in his struggles with his workmen. In the second place, whereas the regular union worker can only work for one employer at a time and must take all chances incidental to the fluctuations of that employer's business, the outworkers can serve 2 or 3 firms at once and thus assure themselves of work, if not from one, then from the other. The result being that the union worker, having insecurity of employment to reckon with, must necessarily seek for such a rate of wages as will counterbalance such insecurity. But the outworkers, having greater facilities for procuring work, can, and do, accept lower wages. Add to this the fact that even if both sections of workers got the same wages in cash, yet, owing to their peculiar circumstances, the outworkers would be less costly to the employer as they would be providing their own workshop, fires, etc. Under such circumstances, it is no wonder that the regularly organized members of the tailoring craft regard the existence of the outworking, or sweating, system as a danger to their best interests. Indeed, it were a wonder were it otherwise, for the facts herein set forth give but the faintest outline of the evils contained in the system of outworking. For instance, the fact of such work being performed within the small compass of a working-class home is fatal to the health of those employed upon it, and engenders fever and other contagious diseases which, through the medium of the garments, are spread throughout the entire community. Then, like all other home work, it invariably leads to female and child labor, all the members of the family being pressed into the service. Thus, a crop of evils of the most serious nature are fostered by this system of sweating, against which our friends of the tailoring craft are now arrayed. But what of the remedy? We might, were we so minded, placidly, and quite correctly, point out to our tailoring friends that the only remedy is socialism, that nothing short of the public ownership and democratic control of the means of life will finally rid them of their industrial troubles, that sweating is but the natural child of capitalism, and that to get rid of the one you must abolish the other. But this is not our attitude, nor is it the attitude of the scientific socialist wherever he is found. Socialism is indeed the only permanent remedy, but socialists seek for a mitigation of present evils even whilst pressing for the abolition of the source from whence they sprung. Indeed, socialists are the most imperative of all in agitating for immediate reforms because we know that no measure of relief to the cause of labor is today possible which does not carry within it the germ of socialist principles, which is not in a greater or less degree an application to industrial life of the socialist idea. Thus, the only radical and effective remedy for the evils of sweating, viz., the entire suppression of outworking, is perhaps too Herculean a task for mere trade union effort to accomplish, but lies well within the range of what the workers might accomplish by political action as a class, and as the regulation of industrial activity by the workers themselves, instead of by a dominant class, is the very essence of the socialist conception, so even that partial application of the principle which would be shown in the spectacle of working-class representatives in the House of Commons forcing this upon the employers lies along those lines of progress we desire to travel. We would advise our friends to study that fact well and then ask themselves why it is that our home rule representatives, so ready to serve the class interests of the tenant farmers, are so utterly indifferent to the class interests of the town workers. Meanwhile, in every effort their union may make towards abolishing the evils of sweating, the tailoring trade can count upon our heartiest cooperation. And that's the end of the text. I found it particularly informative to hear this concrete description of the working conditions of the outworkers themselves, and a description of the dynamic at work regarding the competition between the outworkers and the regular union factory workers. So this one was particularly informative, but as usual, it included a nice political jab at the home rule politicians included at the end. And it's always fun to get another taste of that, which I've come to enjoy as a quite familiar dish served in the writings of James Connolly. And that's it for my ending commentary. So hopefully, we all learned something. And don't forget, ruthless criticism of all things.